Hello everyone, we now have the great finale, so please take your seats. It's an immense honor that we can welcome one of the world's greatest poets here today, Alice Notley. And precious Okoyomon and I will make a short introduction, so I'd also like to ask Precious to come on stage. Please give Precious another very warm welcome. Now, a couple of years ago, Precious suggested that I visit Alice Notley in Paris, and I've always been an admirer of Alice's poetry, and we had an extraordinary meeting where I could not only actually talk with Alice about poetry, but also see the extraordinary drawings Alice is making, which really connect, visual art and poetry. Alice's work has always to do with beginnings, so it's kind of wonderful that we can conclude today's panel discussions with a beginning, and I hope you can join tomorrow at 3 p.m. Alice's poetry reading, together with Precious also, who will be with us in the library of Frida Escobedo and Federico Campagna. So beginnings. Alice says, I think I try with my poems to create a beginning space. I always seem to be erasing and starting over rather than picking up where I left off, even if I wind up taking up the same themes. This is probably one reason that I change form and style so much, out of a desire to find a new beginning, which is always the true beginning. What is so extraordinary, of course, about Alice's work is also the idea that it's always a community of voices. And we feel very strongly that this exhibition, and I hope you could feel that also today in the discussion, has to do with this idea of a community of voices. I want to quote here again Alice Notley, who says that poetry is about the tangible and what you can hear. It's about the form, it's about voices, and it generally is about telling things. We tell each other things, and so I allow a lot of voices in my poems. I can't seem to keep them out. I consider them to be concrete entities. At this point, when I write the poem, it seems like a community of voices. So this is really to celebrate this community of voices, also to celebrate Alice's new book, Being Reflected Upon, which has just been published by Penguin, which is very much a memoir of Alice's Paris life between 2000 and 2017. It's a book also about illness and recovery and healing. It gives an entry really to many of the sources of Alice's work, and it has a lot to do with the mysteries of consciousness and also with dreams. In another recent book about essays, which I also strongly recommend, Alice has two wonderful texts about dreams, which are great to read in connection to actually Carsten's and Adam's piece here. And I now give over the microphone to Precious, who will tell us about the inspiration from Alice's work. Precious Okoyomon.
I discovered Alice Notley's work very young, and it was through other friends gifting me her work. A dear friend of mine, Dana Ward, gave me Alice's book, and he said, she is the many gendered mothers of all of our poets' hearts, and you need to read this book. And at 17, it kind of changed my life, and I went down a tunnel hole of becoming a poet, and I feel like it had a lot to do with her secret existential detective dreaming capabilities of hacking into the world and chipping at it and bringing us into our soft, fragilized selves with love. So I'm so grateful for Alice Notley for existing in the world. Like, thank you, God.
Thank you so much, Precious. And now please give a very, very warm welcome to Alice Notley.
Hello. I'm just going to read a few poems from this book, Being Reflected Upon, which is a memoir of the 17 years between 2000 and 2017. So each of the poems is like a memory but sometimes it's a complicated memory of several times. What is a thing? Of all the things that can go wrong, what is a thing? Which ones caused me to see castle battlement colored formations on the periphery of my eyes? I'm not telling, but loopy, I mean zany visions, interesting. What are you thinking about? Different parts or areas of me are thinking. The conscious one that writes, that has to draw from a boundless, obscure cache, and one place dreams and one place sings without knowing how. This is obvious. What memory are you trying to recover, not reupholster? Evasion, I walk into no near. And as early as 8th century church, Rue du Louvre, Saint-Germain-l'Auxerrois, down the street from which a private detective agency advertising itself in neon, Duluc Detective. There's also a store nearby for model ships, AOL Modelisme. I used the church for the Ride, a poem still unpublished in 2017, but this is, 2010. Also Monet's Water Lilies, other arrondissement, because the microbits can come from anything. The glyph, I call it, holds all in place. We are leaving Earth for another dimension. Is it to a self area, though tremendous, full of imagined and real dead voices, characters, and my brother, you are all my brother. No, Albert is a particular dead man I am healing every day. Each church is built on another older site, endless layering of who you'd know yourself to be if the consciousness could be released into all of it. Do you hear how this is a poem? Different from speaking because the microtones sound holy even when humorous. There is construction near the trees and something yellow. I never go inside them, the churches. I like to take energy from the ground. Or if I sit down, planting my feet, it's something magnetic in the shadowy parts of air, and nothing happens except in the poem, which is profoundly scary if you stay with it. What part of the microbits of reality swarm and regather Saint, but what if Saint Chaos, al collage, a typeset visage, would an extraterrestrial have to communicate with what? What do you say, oh tiny bees joined into a shape for a somehow mean in outer space? The castle battlements note structural atoms, blue and orange red, usually a visual aberration for half an hour. Just like everything else, they are acquired in my 60s or recovered from anywhere, anything, anywhere. My personal definition of chaos, you're supposed to have a life. I'm supposed to be reinventing chaos. I heard him. I heard him talk to me in my mind and tell me what to do, which I did, and he was right, though dead. I wrote to her, and she needed me to. The thing is, I heard myself talk to him without control, didn't know that I'd say it. I said, you, he said, yes. He said, it's for Albert. Now, the I that said you was not the one I was going along with in the daily way, getting ready to unlock my door. I didn't know anyone was there, and suddenly my own mental voice said, you. Furthermore, he replied in my voice, was using my voice in my head. This was about 2009. I've become another. I know what I know, you say. I know almost everything. I don't know why we have to live this. I'm not even sure we're really participating in. Do you think dreams are slipped into us by? I like to run because it isn't like moving, so it reminds me of dreams. A man's making friends with a heron in the pond at Les Buttes-Chaumont, photographing him this morning. But he's mine, my heron. Discreetly, I don't tell him, but I may. The heron came towards me once, almost left the water, but I didn't notice soon enough and couldn't stop moving that way when you run. In the same park since 1995. Remember the flasher? The first one I'd seen, several different countries and races, same preoccupation and face and annoyance that you interrupt. Brought the tone down. I don't like being a person. I prefer being a mind. All the tones sound together, wind chime-like or raw-voiced graph without having to understand. I'm needy, so what? I pressed my forehead to my brother's bloody forehead in a dream and came away with his blood on mine. He has gray hair now when I dream of him. He's aged in death. I've been helping him and vice versa. I remember dreaming the year before he died, he wore a short-sleeved red shirt with a black stripe across his back and was saying goodbye to his kids in my mother's backyard. Is there a beauty in as if the Orestea, my poem Iphigenia, is about us? Is the Orestea more than gruesome? Who did this to you, or was it even done? What was done? Who killed someone? Why is another only bent? Do you know I was an advanced archer? The only important thing to say is, and that when my father spoke to me at my door, it was as if he had to translate. So for the last 7 years, I've been trying to discover how the dead communicate with each other, trying to overhear them. They and we holding it together, talking everything, talking mind. Disclaimer to the urgently expressive. I disclaim all your experience as a small body victim or member of a group. I throw it out. Talking to what someone found out among the particles. What year? I don't want to know how bad you feel. The dusk-rocked grace bed is yours, so shut it. Kicking out belief meaning in the apoplectic bullying device. I think that was everyone I was reading. They thought they were only connected to and only each other, though demanding every single person as audience. You have to say, I'm hurt to every human entity to get rocks off. I knew I was supposed to be supportive, as if marching, but the best I could do was love everyone. When the surface of the planet is dying, though not the interior, you sometimes think the gnats should shut up. They have souls too, piling up in my soul's bedroom, alongside those of children dead of starvation in Somalia or Yemen. I was talking to you last night. You had cast off your emaciation and babiness and had a clear light with eyes, because I know eyes, and your parents had loved you. What did I do to deserve to be born among thoughts that can be called thoughtless and purely mean in the sense everyone is their thoughts? No, I wasn't born except for before birth. It's hot today, and I'm supposed to be in tune with my species. I'm sick of it. As it is, it must be changed into different thoughts. Soon you will have to give up your cars. No government but your own alarm will tell you to, or flat desolation when there's no point in going there. I was born in terror and distrust of cars and of people's assumptions. She told everyone to pay attention to her because she represented them, or was it only because she was she? The message is gibberish. The baby is composed of what I hadn't seen before as substance. It is just love without human language, back to the old language, spoken by me before I was born, without what you'd call emotion. Are these just notes for a poem? The language my father translated into English when he spoke to me from death. Try to speak that, untranslated. Jimi Hendrix anecdote. It happened in 1970, but I didn't know how to tell it until 2005. Now I don't want to tell it again, but it belongs. I'd like to tell it without telling it, as in heaven. It is, as I've said in the other poem that doesn't quite tell it, a benefit at the village vanguard to free Timothy Leary. Bill Berkson and I have taken acid together, sunshine. I've taken a half tab and come to this room with a stage in its center. I wanted Ted to be here. He isn't, but Ann Waldman is, Wynne Chamberlain, Sally Henry Pritchard, and the people who speak and perform, Jerry Rubin and Barbara, Alan Watts, carried up on a litter, he is ill or crippled, and Jimi Hendrix. I enter a bad trip zone in head and feel I'm at a real crisis. I might lose my mind in the sense you who can lose it. Henry's face melts and I can't speak at all. Everything on stage is a drama. It's psychic stage, central in shadows. Jerry Rubin makes a desperate sounding speech. Vietnam. He and Barbara in tableau like actors shouting at end of world. Oh, Barbara, Ann says from audience. Hendrix later comes up, plugs in guitar, performs solo. No one plays with him or is his entourage. Finally, at moment, I stand mid-room, people starting to leave, and I'm frozen, concentrated on keeping hold in head of small white thread. That is myself. I'm holding on. And Hendrix walks up to me, then past, but first looks directly into me, seeing what I'm doing. I just stare, still focused hard on holding on. Bill finally takes me out of that hell room. Outside, instantly, I'm no longer high. A few months later, Hendrix is dead. There is, in fact, no anecdote. No one saw anything except Hendrix. He and I were both there in it, a mental point of communication. It happened. And on my 60th birthday, I tell the story to Peggy, Tom, Marion, Joe, Anselm, and Edmund. But do you see how fragile and how strong my what was imaged as thread was, and how Hendrix was, in passing, the only one who saw where I was at? Can it be that easy to lose? And if I hadn't held on, what would become? I would be annihilated. Was annihilation a real possibility? What would it be? This thing that happened. This is this thing that happened. And this is the last poem. These are the clothes of Night Woman. You will always have light limbs, even old, and you can as if fly. These are their materials, she said, handing them to me, but was a younger woman and didn't care. When my mother was dying and couldn't really walk and ate like a bird or insect, I tried to feed her canned salmon cakes, bits of pasta, the house and nest for 60 years. No, I'm what woman walking behind a dark mountain on streets? I'm frightening mountain at night woman. My garment is a thin weave of granite. And before I was born, aged all ages in the big green room, I foresee this time of recreation. My arms are around all you and I, as if flying, extend myself past night into neither day nor night. These are the clothes of that one. They fed on bits of manna and wore or were gossamer like moths. They were their clothes. I've forgotten to have any dreams again. I am enlarging as all that silliness dries up and falls off my surface. Oh, what you do to me. You have conspiracies against me in the official myths, but I am so far beyond outrageous fortune that I remember not even being born. I'm going home, my mother said. But first she spoke of Pentecost, where everyone was understood in their language. And my garment is of those words, the old language, that alloweth me to move and fly, to still run in the park as if flowing, to expand, though holding you, not dreaming, interknit or woven. And I found my parents I'd already known to be born in the myth of the alley, or everywhere the life would be sacred, almost an emblem, and bleeding so the colors wouldn't stay. I saw that the materials of the universe were unstable, not factual, and were inside thee or my soul. The purpose of the senses would be growth through them. You could see that we, a chaos, cohere no matter what we do if we redefine matter. And I will see you and see you again holding in the borderless way and becoming involved in mind. No, I'm in the green room with the clicking board announcing the words of my poems that could change upon the instant, like at the train station. This word came up, inexact, or the famous changing woman, foreseen, and I'm omniscient. I mean, it's my time in here. I'm in control of the old language. What I am, it's always my time.